everybody, to Law&Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber. Prosecutors in Alex Murdaugh's murder trial say he killed his wife Maggie and youngest son Paul at their country home in 2021. And now the state has called its last witnesses to rebut the claims made by the defense. Law&Crime's Jeanette Levy has details on who the prosecution called first and why.
I love Paul very much. I thought I knew who Alec was. I did not.
Ronnie Crosby, Alex Murdaugh's former law partner and family friend, was the first witness the state called in rebuttal.
When was the first time you've heard the defendant's latest story admitting that he was in fact at the kennels minutes before the victims were killed?
I haven't watched all of this trial like a lot of people have, but when I heard that Alec was taking the stand, I believe it was last Thursday.
On cross-examination, Alex Murdaugh's attorney, Dick Harpootlian, implied Crosby was biased because Murdaugh stole from clients and destroyed their law firm.
Are you angry at him for stealing your money?
I have no feeling one way or the other.
I don't have any feeling about Alex Murdaugh betraying you and stealing your money. I admire you. I don't know that I can look beyond that.
Forensic pathologist Dr. Ellen Reamer took the stand again to rebut a defense expert who said her claim about Paul Murdaugh's gunshot wound to the head being an exit wound was wrong.
Is there any way that could have been a contact wound to the top of the head?
No.
On cross-examination, Harpootlian challenged her findings and questioned her about things she didn't do.
We don't have shattering of every bone. We don't have shattering of the face.
Why didn't you shave the head?
Why didn't I shave the head?
Were you looking for any, if much of the skull was still there?
Look, my determination, I didn't shave the head because I was confident that that was an exit wound on the right side of the top of the head.
After testimony concludes, the jury will be taken to Moselle, the 1,700-acre property where Paul and Maggie Murdaugh were murdered. For Law&Crime Daily, I'm Jeanette Levy in Walterboro, South Carolina.
The fourth reply witness call was a digital forensics examiner who works with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office as well as the Secret Service. And he had done experiments to determine how you have to make an iPhone, how you move an iPhone to activate the screen's waking feature. Murdaugh's defense team wanted to strike this testimony. They say he's not actually an expert. The judge overruled that, but attorney Phil Barber nonetheless hammered home the point.
So you were unable to find any actual data on it, so you resorted to throwing your phone around alone? Was anyone with you when you did this?
No, sir. I was alone in my office.
So you're alone in your office, throwing the phone around, taking no measurements, recording nothing over the weekend, and then you come in here and testify as an expert as to what the phone will do?
That's correct.
And testify that it's different than what we've seen it do right here in this courtroom?
That's correct.
Have you ever done anything like this before? You'd mentioned testifying 6 times before. Was this your expert testimony in any other case?
My expert testimony in other cases was always about cell phone reports and the data contained therein. I've never actually done physical experimentation to come up with a realistic result.
So your previous experience was extracting data from cell phones, is that accurate?
Correct.
Is that what you're trained to do?
Yes, sir.
The training that was listed, it was to extract data from a cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Are you an engineer?
No, sir.
Do you have any certification in engineering?
No, sir.
Do you have any degree, academic qualifications in engineering?
No, sir.
Have you ever worked as an engineer?
No, sir.
You're trained in extracting data from the cell phone?
That's correct.
And when it comes to tossing it around and seeing how it moves, you don't know anything more than anyone else, do you?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm joined right now by my co-host and former trial attorney Terry Austin, as well as special guest litigator Richard Schoenstein. Rich, I'll start with you. Welcome to the program. I've got to start with the digital forensics examiner. And he says he's an expert in data extraction, maybe not so much an expert in some of the stuff he testified to. Feels like a win for the defense.
Look, Jesse, I'm an expert. I can toss my cell phone around. I mean, that was crazy. That was a terrible idea by the prosecution to put him on. He literally sat in his office over the weekend, threw a cell phone around. We don't even know if it was the same kind of cell phone that Maggie Murdaugh had. It's not scientific at all. That was a crazy idea, a big fail for the prosecution. They had some better moments today, but that wasn't one of them.
Yeah, and he did it all with a straight face on the stand. Terry, let's talk about Dr. Reamer, okay, forensic pathologist. How do you think she held up during cross-examination? You think that the defense scored any points there?
You know, I think Dr. Reamer was better when she was on the first time. I think this time she was a little bit rattled, but that jury likes her. She has this professor type, you know, demeanor about her, and I think they like that. And I do think, however, that the defense made a couple of points. They tried to say that her examination was shabby and shoddy, and the fact that she didn't take enough photographs, she didn't x-ray that brain, and I think she took offense to that. I think that's why she got a little bit upset and she came across the way she did. I think substantively the defense was trying to say that the angle and that the, you know, contact wound to the head was a possibility. She said it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think overall she still came out on top.
And there's a possibility the jury might wash all the experts out and not even consider this testimony when they ultimately go to their deliberations. Now, our coverage of this double murder trial isn't done. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, we're taking a look at how you, our viewers, are reacting to today's testimony, and we're answering your questions. When we come back, we're hearing more testimony from an attorney with Alex Murdaugh's former law firm who did not like the way defense attorney Dick Harpootlian was questioning him. Stay with us. Our coverage of the Murdaugh family murders in South Carolina continues now with a fiery cross-examination. Alex Murdaugh's former law partner Ronnie Crosby testified earlier in the trial, and he was called back again. Defense attorney Dick Harpootlian implied that Crosby may have testified out of spite in connection with Murdaugh's financial crimes.
Have you had to come out of pocket to pay back the money he stole?
Yes, and if you...
How much? Don't tell me you don't know.
Well, we're still counting, Mr. Harpootlian.
Well, how much have you paid so far?
We have had to borrow millions to pay back.
No, how much have you had to come out of pocket?
Well, when you borrow it, you got to pay it back, and I couldn't tell you how much has exactly been paid back as of we sit here today. But yes, and if you're implying that I would come in here and somehow shade truth in any way because of that, I would take high offense with that, Mr. Harpootlian.
I'm concerned about your high offense. Are you angry at him for stealing your money?
I have no feeling one way or the other.
I don't have any feeling about Alex Murdaugh betraying you and stealing your money. I admire you. I don't know that I could look beyond that.
Objection, Your Honor. Objection. It is sustained. There's not a question. The jury is to disregard the argument.
You are not angry with Alex Murdaugh?
I have had anger with him, extreme anger, Mr. Harpootlian, because of what he did to my law firm, my partners, my client, his clients, our clients, what he did to his family, what he's did to so many people. Yes, I experienced a lot of anger. But you can't walk around with anger. You have to find a way to deal with it and move forward. And I have done that. And if you suggest you are dead wrong if you think I've come in here and told this jury something because of money, when we're talking about two people who were brutally murdered, then you're headed in the wrong direction.
We're finishing off today's show back in Walterboro, South Carolina, as the case dwindles down in Alex Murdaugh's double murder trial. The outcome is ultimately up to a 12-person jury, and you, our viewers, have been sharing your predictions at home. So on the first day of the prosecution's rebuttal case, here's where you believe the trial is headed based on our YouTube poll. So 67% of you, 67, believe that Murdaugh is guilty. 15% believe he's not guilty, and 17% are still undecided until all the evidence is in. Now, this is a shift from the end of Murdaugh's testimony on Friday, where 66% of the viewers said that Murdaugh was guilty, 11% said not guilty, and 22% were leaning towards a hung jury or undecided or combined. So it's clear that no one can predict the minds of those 12 people in the jury box, but the good news is we have boots on the ground observing the jury's movements in the courtroom day in and day out. So here's Law and Crime's very own Anjanette Levy and Gigi McKelvey to give us Tuesday's takeaways.
They were watching. You know, I thought for a minute we were going to break out the boxing gloves and just go at it with a couple of these rebuttal witnesses. But yeah, very engaged. It's been a little heated at times, a little unpredictable. And Ronnie Crosby, I think, definitely resonated with that jury because his feelings are so valid. And if you've ever been betrayed, not on this scale, most of us haven't been betrayed like this, but man, what a credible witness for the state.
Can the jury see how Alex Murdaugh is acting during the trial?
Yeah, they have a great view. I mean, they can look right over at him, and oftentimes they do when certain testimony comes up. Today, they have glanced over several times with each witness to see, I guess, his reaction.
I think you thought that some of the female jurors didn't like the way that Dick Harpootlian was questioning Dr. Reamer.
Yeah, and some of the male jurors as well. I mean, they just seem really irritated. I don't think that it's always the best method to yell at a nice little lady who's a pathologist. It kind of gets old really quick. But yeah, I did see some strong reactions from the jury, and I think everybody, Harpootlian and the witness, were frustrated with each other. It was really obvious, really tense in that room today.
Yeah, very tense. That's a good way to describe it. All right, final discussion is going to include your viewer questions from our YouTube channel to try to clear up any confusion you might have about the case. Completely understandable. Rich, I'll start with you. Our first question comes from Michael Rolfe. What instructions will the jury get before the crime scene visit, and what does the defense hope for them to take away from that visit?
Well, Michael, I think the jury will be told it's just a viewing. You're not there. First of all, the jurors can't talk to each other. They can't talk to each other to the end of the case. They can't experiment. They can't see if their cell phones get reception at the kennel or other questions they have. All they can do is look around. It's a crime scene visit. The defense, I think, is hoping that they take away that it's a huge property. And I think the defense wants the jurors specifically to believe that it would be possible Alex Murdaugh could be back at the house not hearing a double homicide going on at the kennels.
Yep, that distance is important. All right, Terry, we have another question from M.E. I don't think it's the medical examiner. If the jury believes there are two shooters, would they be expected to acquit Murdaugh even if they believe he's one of the shooters? That's a good question.
Great question, M.E. Listen, if they believe that Alex Murdaugh shot either Maggie or Paul, he will not be acquitted. He will be convicted of murder. They could think there are 2, 3, 4, 5 shooters out there. The way they're going to get those jury forms, it's going to be separate. There are 4 counts. 2 charges for murder and 2 charges for possession of that gun and using it in a violent crime. And if they determine that he had 1 gun and he shot either one of them, he will be convicted. It has to be unanimous, and that's the issue right here. Are you going to get all 12 of them to agree?
We got the best viewers. Great questions, so attentive, and we'll keep them coming here on The Daily. Terry, Rich, thank you both so much. Everyone out there, thanks for joining us here on Law&Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.